Faf, there's been quite a dramatic sort of reversal of fortunes between the two sides from, say, 18 months ago when clearly the Proteas had the upper hand over Australia, and I think the record is still you've won 8 of the last 11 games. But do you think it's fair to say that all the momentum is kind of turned around and it's in Australia's favour at the moment? And what does that say about sport and the World Cup in general?
Sure, I think to say that it's been heavily in favour of us, maybe the scoreline says that, but the last series certainly against Australia was a really, really close one. 2-2 going into the last, and then putting together our best game of the series in that last game. And then obviously the World Cup, I think the fact that Australia has been boosted by the 2 guys coming back into their batting lineup has made them a pretty complete team. There's not many holes in their team now, and they've played some really good cricket at this World Cup. But I think they had some nice confidence also leading into the World Cup, beating, I think it was Pakistan pretty convincingly, and playing well in India as well. Yeah, but obviously they, as you rightly say, they are a very, very confident team probably right now, and we probably just a little bit off where we need to be. But in saying that, once we cross that rope tomorrow, playing against Australia is certainly for me, my favourite team to play against. It's a great competition between 2 fierce nations. So yes, they're looking pretty where they're sitting in terms of the World Cup, but we still going to make sure we give it everything.
Faf, when the fixtures came out, I don't know, 18 months ago, whatever it was this fixture one that you immediately identified as one that could kind of potentially make or break your tournament? Was it always going to be a massive one? And then how disappointing is it that it's not? Yeah,
we did. When it came out, we did exactly look at the last game of the World Cup, especially with, as I mentioned the other day, the 2 less teams going into the final stages. It's not a quarter-final tournament anymore. It's only a top 4. And when we looked at it, it was like, sure, Australia in the last game will be a great opportunity to possibly one of the 2 of the teams to play the last game almost like a quarter-final. But it isn't the case now. Yes, but as I said, we'll still make sure tomorrow there's a lot to play for us. The discussions within the team is that there's a few guys signing off after this World Cup. It's the last time that we are together as a unit. No one knows what's going to happen after this tournament, and just making sure that we put a lot of pride into that. Obviously playing for your country is always really special, but losing a few players that won't be together with us in the field again gives me great, not confidence, but a lot of pride to play for those guys tomorrow.
Hi, are you concerned that the end of this World Cup cycle could mean another sort of glut of Kolpak departures? And is there anything that either Cricket South Africa or the ICC can do to help?
Good question. I don't know. ICC certainly not. Cricket South Africa, I know they've been trying to put things into place. There's almost 2 groups of players when it comes to South African cricketers. There's I suppose more of your test players. For them, the Kolpak option is the dangling carrot, and then more your white ball specialist is probably the circuit, the T20 circuit around the world. So both of those areas is big concerns for cricketers in South Africa. So I think more looking at the one-day side, your players that will move on from the Proteas would potentially move on to the T20 circuit, maybe bowl 1 or 2, but I think that's generally where the opportunities lie for the white ball players. So I think naturally with some of the guys finishing, they'll do that. I know JP's plan is to play 1 or 2 tournaments before he finishes, but yeah, certainly that will become the biggest issue for us to try and stay away from for all players, and that's including myself.
The reason I asked about the ICC is because Jason Holder in the past has talked about subsidising salaries and these sorts of things. Is that something that you think would be helpful?
I think that is perfect world, but we don't live in a perfect world. So I don't think. I think your England, Australia, India will always be the higher paid nations. If that changes, it will be amazing for the rest of the world. But I think that it's a long way from happening. And that's one way that you can try and keep. Because you look at it's easier for the guys who's playing for England or Australia or India to remain in their countries and just play their cricket there. Obviously, the currency is very strong, but also the packages that they get paid is obviously a lot different to your smaller nations. And West Indies is a great example. They're probably the worst off, and that's why they've lost so many players to the circuit. It would be great to see that happening, but I think it's a long way from happening.
So just quickly, would you call on the ICC to look at that, to do that?
I think it would be great for the rest of the teams if you could do that. If I had that much power to say that to the ICC, then I think I would have said it a long time ago. But I know that it's a lot bigger than me, and certainly all of the other nations: Sri Lanka, New Zealand, West Indies, Pakistan. I think all of us, fall in the same category as like maybe your second tier nations, and then you get your top three, which is a little bit different.
Faf, this is the first time you've played against David and Steve, obviously, since Cape Town. Well, what do you think the game's learnt from that incident, and do you feel those two guys will be forever tainted or forever remembered by that game?
Certainly, they're extremely hungry to perform at international cricket again, and I think any player that is as good as the two of them that will get taken away from playing at the highest stage will come back extremely motivated, and I think you can see that the two of them are, and they are doing well and scoring runs. For me, I don't look at it like that. Whether the game will remember them for that, I don't think so. I think their records and their performances will speak much louder than one incident as a once-off. And I think they're probably better, I wouldn't say people, but they if you can look at them now, you can see that as a team, obviously Australian culture looks like it's really good. So they've learned from that, and they've made themselves stronger for it. And I think that's a good sign for anyone, is all of us makes mistakes. It's about how you learn and how you move forward.
Faf, has there been any chat about the events in the Kingsmead stairwell or what happened on the field in Cape Town amongst yourselves, Quinton, Kagiso, for example? Has there been any chat in the team?
Not really, apart from me putting a shirt on next time. But no chats. It was obviously quite a funny. It was serious, but it was funny in the watching that video. So that's probably something we'll be remembered for, as the stairwell. But no, certainly not. We saw it as a after that, very, very light-hearted thing.
Faf, to take you back to the bigger picture again, obviously it's not been a great World Cup for South Africa, and there's all sorts of people calling for all sorts of change in the bigger system of the game in South Africa. Do you agree that a lot has to change, and what do you think that change might need to be?
Sure, that's a question that's way above my pay grade. It's difficult for me to say. I don't know to the context of what the people have been saying needs to change. I think cricket South Africa is in a good place. It's producing young cricketers. If you look at the last year or two, there's been so many young cricketers jumping through into the main side, probably more than ever. So that means there's talent. There's definitely talent, and we are performing. We are, and obviously bar this World Cup, we are performing. We've been playing winning cricket. So I think as long as you're producing cricketers that are winning, there's nothing that needs to change. The question would come in is when you start losing consistently as a team, and then you'd go, right, what do we need to change here? But I think right now, obviously people would be very, very disappointed, and so are we as a team. But I don't think it's not desperate times calls for desperate measures yet. I think it's just having a bit of time after this World Cup for everyone to go their separate ways and just sit and think what needs to be done. Where does the team need to move forward to? What decisions needs to be made for this team to move forward? If it's I don't feel there's a style of cricket that needs to change in any way. I think that, the last year, certainly we've looked at a style of cricket that we've wanted to play, and we have played that style of cricket, but I can tell you that it is easier playing that style of cricket in a 5-match series, because if you make a mistake, you get another opportunity. When you come here, you want to play that style of cricket, and it's a plan, but as soon as things don't go well, then obviously the lights get shine on your mistakes even more. And then I think it's really, really challenging to really keep trusting that way of playing. And obviously form will always play a role in trying to play that style. And I thought, as I said before the tournament, that the success of us going through to the semis or possibly going to the final, or even winning it, will rely on this team being in form. And there has been probably a little bit too many of our players that was, shorter runs, shorter wickets, and then you will never make, especially like I said, the new format with only 4 teams.
Yeah. Being captain of an international side is a stressful experience, even when everything's going smoothly. Have you given any thought to your own future as captain or a future as a South African player?
Yeah, as I said now, I think same for me. My almost like plan for myself was to commit fully to the World Cup and not even think of anything else further than the World Cup, because I didn't want my mind to start drifting into the future. I wanted to be completely present in this World Cup. And now the same thing for me applies. Right now is possibly not the best time to be making decisions, because you are disappointed. I won't say emotional, but you don't want to be in this mode when you're making career decisions. So for me, it will be a case of taking some time off and reflecting what does the future look like for me as well. What's my purpose going forward? Is it still playing all 3 formats for South Africa? Those are the things that I would need to consider. I feel in terms of my own game, the last year is certainly the best I've ever played. I still believe that I'm on top of my own game. So performance-wise, there's no question marks there. It's just making sure that there's a lot of purpose to what I'm doing and a lot of purpose in my cricket. And I've had a huge belief the last year, and it's been very easy for me to not even consider anything else, because my purpose in captaining this team was so strong that I didn't even think of anything else. Yeah, that will probably 2-3 weeks after this tournament, just having a real look at that and seeing what the future holds for me as over the next year, 2 years.
Faf, the incident in Cape Town, is it an area that will be discussed during the game? Is it something you can use when it comes to the verbals and things like that?
No, not at all. I mean, we've played against each other since then. As I said, it's not... for me, playing against Australia has always been a great battle, because it's you face a team that is, they're always very, very competitive and in your face. Excuse me, and that's what I love about playing against Australia. But there was certainly no talk about the past or bringing up comments. As I said back then, and I'll say it now, that I believe as a team we're a pretty low-key team when it comes to verbals. We just try and get on and playing with the game, and certainly the last few games playing against Australia, that's exactly the same from them.
Faf, Oud se kontrak maak klaar einde September. Net twee vrae vir jou, sou jy graag wou hê jy in die span dat dit dalk gepraat word oor 'n verlenging. En indien nie, die toer na Indië begin 15 September, wat is die beste situasie? Moet daar voor die toer 'n nuwe afrigter wees, of hoe sien jy daai situasie?
Ek neem aan jy soek dit in Afrikaans. We're just going to talk about you guys for a second. Ja, ek dink ek sal definitief laat uit is. Ek sal graag wil hy met aanbly. Ek het 'n baie goeie verhouding. Ons is kaptein en afrigter met mekaar. So ek hoop so. Ek hoop dat dit nog steeds deel is. Ons het T20 World Cup op 'n jaar en 'n bietjie van nou af. En dit was ons albei se plan was obviously hierdie wêreldbeker, maar ook die volgende een. Want hulle is redelik naby aan mekaar. So dit is hoe ek dit nog sien. die grootste ek nie challenge nie, maar een van die groot dinge wat met 'n nuwe afrigter kom is daar moet baie tyd ingesit word in nuwe verhoudings bou. Want dit vat 'n rukkie en dit vat baie energie om 'n verhouding met 'n nuwe afrigter te bou en dit vat baie en ek het baie in Outes ingesit en hy het baie in my ingesit om mekaar te leer ken en ook om die spelers te leer ken. So dis 'n moeilike en ek weet wat jy sê is wanneer as daar 'n nuwe afrigter kom, wanneer kom daar een? Daar's altyd daai challenge, daar's nooit regtig 'n perfekte tyd nie, maar ja, as ek die vraag kry wil ek hom nog aan boord hê, definitief ja.
Just last to say, that was supposed to be at the end, guys. Then and then back there for last.
Faf, way more boringly, can you just give us an injury update, guys like Miller, Mingidi?
Miller, yeah, he's not 100% for the next game. And yeah, Lungi was fit the previous game, but we just decided to go with a different balance. Yeah, so that will, probably be going in with the same team.
And Faf, taking you back a little bit, I've asked a few players this week. Obviously, 20 years ago was one of the great one-day matches played between Australia and South Africa in a World Cup here in England. I was just interested in your memories and I guess where you saw the game, how you saw the game and whatnot. I know you were obviously very young then.
Yeah, I don't remember them as great. I mean, I remember them as being sad, but obviously for you guys it was amazing. Yeah, actually, funny enough, because you or myself was quite young at the stage and you watched the game but you didn't really understand the finer details of the game, and watching it back now you see a completely different game. I see South Africa cruising and then Warnie coming on and bowling, and one ball hitting on the toe and going to slip, and you're thinking DRS, could it been, could it been different, and then you watch the last over and you think Lance basically was batting. He was seeing the ball this big, so he could take down a boundary any stage of that over. But then you put yourself in that situation. You go, it's actually in that moment. It's not always as easy as it looks. Then there's not that clarity of thinking because there is so much pressure on that period of the game, and it's easy to sit now and go, well, why wasn't there a discussion between the batter and the tail ender that just saying, listen, I'm just going to take care of this bowler. But it doesn't work. It's everything happens so quickly. So I just look at the game now, obviously a lot different because I've gone through a lot of these events as well now. But yeah, Australia's, the catch of Herschel, I watched that and I go, that actually, it looked like he was out, but it wasn't a catch. It's small margins in the game that completely went against South Africa, especially that one game. And you look at the great knock that Steve Waugh played. So yeah, it's nice watching it now, but tomorrow will be another great opportunity for hopefully one of those great games. Hopefully great for us.